suffering is no longer for ourselves, where our suffering becomes the suffering for humanity.
Right.
And it's that I see as the liberation, which is the door into real
Exactly.
happiness.
This is why you'll find the Dalai Lama speaking almost exclusively about compassion.
Yes.
But also he talks about meditation as a means to effectively have compassion. So again, what he's saying and what the teaching that he is trying to put forth is that to be sincere in your compassion, to somehow make it so real, and then therefore the world becomes you. And so again, the idea of the medicine we take to clear up doubt, to clear up confusion, literally what the Buddha said, to have right awareness, to concentrate fully. What that does, it causes, this is Ramana Maharshi again, as we speak him so much, he said when you do sadhana, when you do spiritual practice, it takes the outgoing mind and reverts it not to what he calls the ingoing mind, but he calls it the heart-going mind. When we're moving in the world, it's outgoing, perceiving objects. When we're trying to take the spiritual medicine, we're now trying to go into the heart. So what all are saying is to live from the heart is the purpose. And because in the heart you're having this divine conversation going on. Literally, as the great brother Lawrence said, it's the practice of the presence of God. It's definitely a practice, and it takes constant effort. And so the idea would be, how is it done? How is it done with sincerity?
Well, you see, until the heart breaks open, and that's the suffering, the heart breaks and breaks and breaks until one day it breaks open, and in that breaking open, we're the heart of the world.
Right. But you say, so we say, how does it break open? What causes it? There's an interesting story, which actually I understand is true. One of the popes, 4 or 5 or 6 back, when he became pope, he decided to have a great architect and artist redo the actual doorway into the chapel, his private chapel. And so he commissioned at that time one of the greatest artists in Rome, and he came and he literally reconstructed the entire doorway, and he made it into a form of a heart. Because he said, God resides in the heart, and so the chapel where, the divine incarnation through the liturgy would occur, it would happen inside the heart. So he made a beautiful, beautiful redesign of the heart. And at the day that it was finally kind of unveiled, the Pope was there, and he invited many other artists and to view this. And when the time came and they pulled the curtain and there was this beautiful heart, and it was in a form of a doorway, one of the highest and most renowned artists of the time turned to the Pope and he said, there's a problem with this. You've hired a man, which is obviously he's done something wrong. And the Pope said, what's wrong? And he said, there's no door handle. And how can you, even though it's a heart, it's a doorway, there's no handle. So the artist that constructed things said, no. Before I built this, I said prayers to God, and I asked God, how is the heart open? And I did not put a door handle on because the human heart opens from the inside. So the idea is, again, how can prayer be greater than meditation? If meditation, in a sense, makes us receptive, the great saints will say grace is the presence of God, as we're calling on the divine Mula mantra. God is everywhere. Our job is to become receptive to it. So in a sense, we might say, instead of breaking the heart open, expanding the heart and expanding and making it sensitive. And nothing makes us more sincere in this effort to become sensitive than a little bit of suffering, a little bit of hardship, because then we call upon God, and God, who resides in the heart, opens the heart up. So again, the conversation is, it's interesting. We would use the word divine conversation. we probably know there is this great book, it was turned into a movie called Conversation with God. Anyone know about that? Well, it's a wonderful story, and it's true. There was a man who had everything in life pretty much perfect. He had a wonderful job, beautiful family, a lot of money. He was very stout and healthy. And everything was going well. And then systematically, everything was just taken away. He lost his job. He got sick. His wife left him. He was down and out. Finally, he was literally eating out of a dumpster. And then finally, through his resiliency, he finally pulled himself up and finally got a job and started to bring things back together. And then everything just fell apart again. And finally, he had gotten to his wit's end. And at one point, he was sitting in an abandoned place on a little sofa. And he said, I just give up. And then God came to him and said, are you ready to listen now? And he said, yes. Talk to me. And took that reduction of the resiliency, like I can make my own way, and God says, okay, I'll speak. And so the man said, okay, God, I want peace of mind. And God said, all you have to do is create it in someone else. You'll have your peace of mind. He said, I want health. My body is falling apart. The Lord said, create it in someone else. In other words, an act of compassion is what would bring us that. And so that can be done, yes, physically, we can help others, but we can do it with prayer. This is one thing that's really overlooked, that's emphasized by the saints. And, we all kind of wake up in the dead of night sometimes and just kind of awake. Many say that if a person who takes up a life of meditation and has some spiritual practice going, that literally the Divine Mother would use us as handmaids or handmaidens and wake us up and try to get us to cooperate, not only have conversation with her, but cooperate in her work, to literally start praying for the world. Really, we have this power. So the idea is we're talking about, yes, how do we overcome our own suffering and our sorrow that comes from time to time, alleviate it from someone else.
In the Jewish tradition,
this is it.
Repairing the universe.
Yeah,
the highest.
That's it. Repairing the universe.
So Christ said, "Be my hands and feet."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. On the question of prayer, do you use visualization in prayer? For example, if you were praying for someone who was ill, do you see a picture of them in your mind getting better? Is that a technique you use or not?
In a sense, everyone does it in their own way, and those practices I've seen in Scripture. They talk about visualization and affirmation, things of that nature. Also, in prayer, like for instance, I know even many Buddhists, what they'll do is after their meditation, their chanting, they'll have what they call the transferring the merit. Because obviously if you sat for a long time and you've done a lot of chanting, or you've just refined your mind, there's merit, there's goodness that's created. And they say, I'm transferring it to the world. Literally, some will say they'll feel as if their own meditation and their own spiritual practice created a light. They'll literally feel this light beaming out. And if there's a specific person, they'll imagine that person and see that light going into them. One of the best examples, once I was at what's called the City of 10,000 Buddhas. It's in Redwood City, California. The Reverend Hua, that great Buddhist monk who came and he started this tremendous big center of Chinese Buddhism. They had a medicine Buddha ceremony, the huge medicine Buddha, and there were probably 500 or 600 people there. And they kept chanting in Chinese and then in English, Medicine Buddha, heal someone. Medicine Buddha, heal someone. They kept saying that. And then we asked later that each individual person, if they wanted, they were just imagining the world, and the Medicine Buddha was just pouring out this healing power of the world. Some people were literally imagining an individual they knew were sick.